Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Julian Placino. I'm a speaker, a podcaster, and I do personal development training. Grateful for the invitation to be with you all here this evening. So I wanted to first kind of start off to lay the foundation of where these insights come from that I'll be sharing, given my background. So for the past 12 years, my background has been in recruiting and staffing. So my job has really been to spot the unique talents in individuals and help them find the best opportunities in the marketplace. And that's what I've done as a corporate career for the past 12 years. But I can honestly say the last 4 years of my life, they have truly been quite amazing and terrifying, certainly humbling and exhilarating all at the same time. Because without any kind of previous experience in these particular disciplines, I became a sponsored podcaster, a professionally represented actor and commercial model, a keynote speaker, and within 6 months of intentionality, built a consulting company which replaced my income and set me on the path of full-time entrepreneurship, which I'm on today. And I know even now that sounds really crazy, but everything that I just said is 100% verifiable and well documented online. And I'd argue I was able to create these results because I did something that I loved and I inadvertently built a personal brand. So I want to share a little bit more about my story today, really unpack these insights about personal branding so you can turn them into strategies to grow your business. Does that sound good? Give me a 3 in the chat if it sounds good to you. Awesome. All right. Well, for the past 7 years for my corporate career, I oversaw hiring for a company called Bottle Rocket Studios. And Bottle Rocket is one of the premier mobile development firms in the world. And we made the apps for incredible companies like Chick-fil-A, Starwood Hotels, Coca-Cola Freestyle, just to name a few. And once a year, we did something called rocket science, where for a period of 24 hours, we actually shut down the company and we could build anything we want. And truly anything goes, provided you must truly love whatever it is you birth into existence in those 24 hours. Well, for me, I always loved having conversations with interesting people. So I figured, why not have these conversations, interview successful leaders, and share these conversations with others? So in March of 2016, for my passion project, I started the Pathways to Success podcast, where I interview various leaders about their journeys to success. And fast forward to present day, I produced 173 episodes. I have a regular listening audience from 12 countries. I have a perfect 5-star rating in iTunes, and I've had the great privilege to interview company founders, CEOs, New York Times bestselling authors, TEDx speakers, just to name a few. And in addition to the success metrics of the podcast, I started getting all these sponsorships. I was even sponsored by Focusrite, which is the #1 selling USB audio interface in the world. And you know, for me, I was just so humbled that any brand would associate their business with my passion project. Well, something else I started to realize is that whenever you start having kind of a personal brand through this content, is people start to pay attention to you. Well, a talent agency reached out to me and they wanted to meet me. And for me, of course, I have zero expectations for what's to come. I'm a recruiter. I've never had any kind of talent experience before. But after one meeting, I got signed to the theatrical and broadcast division of one of the premier talent agencies in the country, Kim Dawson. And it became a professionally represented actor and commercial model. And to date, I've been in commercials for AT&T, ABM, Hilti, American Heart Association. I was once booked for the role of Asian politician who speaks English. I get it. I sort of fit the bill, right? Well, the more and more these kinds of things started to happen to me, the more and more I would get invited to speak. And I became a keynote speaker on various topics, including personal branding and also leadership and doing work that you love. So around 2018, I had built this muscle of content creation through the podcast. And something else I was also very passionate about was teaching my particular industry and recruiting best practices. So I figured, I wonder what would happen if I just started posting helpful videos on LinkedIn and seeing what kind of effect that could have for the community. Well, before I bring up this illustration, my podcast has been downloaded over 80,000 times across 173 episodes over a 4-year period. And I posted one video on cold calling on LinkedIn, and it generated over 34,000 views in 9 days. So to me, I thought that was the market saying, this is interesting content and it might be useful. So I posted another video and another video and another video and more videos. And to date, my content has been seen well over 500,000 times. And because my content was so recruiting focused, I had all of these recruiters from all over the country reaching out to me for advice, specialized knowledge, asking for training. I felt that through my personal brand and feedback from the market, it was signaling me to be some kind of teacher. So what I did is I took the top 3 pain points the market kept telling me, I turned it into a training product and I sold it into the market. And that was the genesis of my training company, which I decided to name after the podcast, the Pathways to Success Training Company. And last year I was featured in Dallas Innovates because I had actually turned my passion project into a business and gone full time doing something that I loved. So why do I share this story with everyone here? And I have to be very honest with you, this is a little strange without having much interaction in the chat. All right, got the chat back up. Okay, great. So what I wanted to share, the single greatest insight that I had as a result of all of this was the importance of a personal brand. Now, when I talk about this idea of a personal brand, I'm curious, what comes to your mind? Because for me, honestly, I had no clue what I was doing until episode 100 of the podcast, when I had a listener reach out to me and say, hey, Julian, how did you build your personal brand? And what this particular listener was referring to was this body of work that I had created, all of this 400 hours worth of long form content. It sort of became this portfolio of who I was, what I cared about, and what I did. So I want to share with you all the top 3 reasons why it's critical to build your personal brand and be intentional about your online presence. So number 1, it gives you access to people and increases your ability to do so. And whenever you have access to people, you have access to opportunity. So how did I get the opportunity to speak with you all here this evening? Around March, I got this message here in my LinkedIn inbox. Hi, we're looking for a keynote speaker for our convention. But who would send this to me and why? It was none other than your very own Tatiana Galeas, your VP of Sales and Marketing. She reached out to me based on my personal brand. Now, what does this represent? Because the truth is, before this interaction, I had no clue who Tatiana was. I had no clue who Univera was, but she came to me. This is an inbound lead. Think about how that could potentially transform your business if you had inbound prospects coming to you for your particular thought leadership, right? And what if I said this? What if I said my inbox is full of these requests? Just today, I got 2 speaking invites for the University of North Texas TechServe Alliance. I'm in communications with Wingstop right now. They want me to do a talk on diversity, all because of this reflection of myself that lives online. The second piece is it increases your ability to build trust and credibility. And we all here know that people like to work with, buy from, and hire people that we know, like, and trust, right? So I want to bring back another engagement that I had with Tatiana because it's the reason why I'm here. And also I think speaks so clearly as to why the science of this actually works. So she said, I've seen your videos and love them. I want to draw attention to this. Seen your videos. Note that videos is plural. Seen is an action that has taken place over time. One of the best quotes I've ever heard on building trust was by Reid Hoffman, who says that trust equals time plus consistency. You see, because I've been consistent in producing my content, whether Tatiana knew it or not, I was building trust with her. And when it came time to invite me, there wasn't much of a vetting process because she got a sense of who I was about. Being intentional about your online presence and creating a content and building a personal brand allows you to build trust in scale. Make sense? Lastly, it vastly expands your network. We've all heard sayings like, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around most. Show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are. Why do you think there's so many ways to say the same thing? It's because it's true. Now, let me ask you this. Does a social following matter? What do you think? Tell me in the chat. It absolutely matters. And whenever I speak about personal branding to corporations, a lot of times they think it's sort of kind of like a gimmick. But I can tell you right now, having a following in 2020, it's not about a gimmick and it's certainly not about vanity likes. It's about building a distribution channel for your ideas within an audience that knows, likes, and trusts you. When I went to go promote my first live podcast recording, it was at the Network Bar last year. And I wanted to see how could I actually leverage this following. So I made a few calls to action on LinkedIn through my distribution channel. And in 3 days, I maxed out the 65 limit RSVP cap. What a powerful tool. So again, you can expand your network by building a distribution channel, and those are your followers. So to recap, why personal branding? Why being intentional about your online presence in 2020? Number one, it gives you access to people. And whenever you have access to people, you have access to opportunity. Number two, it allows you to build trust, credibility, and authority. And people like to work with, buy from, and hire people they know, like, and trust. And then lastly, it vastly expands your network. It's about building a distribution channel for your ideas, a group of individuals that you can positively impact with your business. Questions?
So we're going to open the chat for questions. If you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and read them out. And okay. Or actually, you can also read them as we go, Julian. Do you post daily?
So it really depends. When I first started the podcast, I actually posted 1 new episode every single week. But because my speaking schedule has been really crazy, it's now sort of like every other day, right? But really, when it comes to new content creators, just get started and improve along the way. What happens is consistency. It's sort of like a muscle, right? Anything that you would do and apply deliberate practice to improves over time. But the thing about creating content, it really is like reputation, passive income. We've all read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Passive income. Well, if you produce a piece of content once, it pays you in a lifetime in the form of social equity. And it starts to build and becomes a social footprint of yours. Does that make sense?
Perfect, yes. Next question, it's what is the first step you suggest starting from zero?
You know, for me, whenever I talk about personal branding, because here's the truth, right? The online presence, that's usually not even where I start, because it starts with self-awareness. all these online tools are amazing ways to communicate your personal brand, but you really have to know what you value, who you serve, right? Because what you start to notice is that you will attract the kind of audience who you solve problems for, educate, and also entertain. In my example, I made content specifically for the recruiting community. So what happened? I had all of these recruiters come out and start following me. So who is your customer? And I would start there. Let me ask you that, Jorge. Who is your customer and what are their problems? So think of the FAQs and you can start building content around there.
Perfect. That actually answers a couple of questions that they're asking. Another question is, what's the average length of your videos?
Whenever, specifically, LinkedIn is my jam, right? So I get more engagement on LinkedIn than all of my social platforms combined. You have to sort of see which platform is most receptive to you. Like on Instagram, I have a very little following, Facebook, a lot of friends, right? But I started to notice that LinkedIn seemed to be very attracted to my message, right? So right now I post all across all the social channels, and LinkedIn, 100%, I get so much more engagement because that's where my audience lives, right? But in terms of videos, I say 1 to 3 minutes is my sweet spot. People are constantly scrolling and have very little attention span, so very short. Typically, if it is a video, it's producing some kind of call to action to take them off of the social channel into a website. Make sense?
Yep, absolutely. 2 last questions. Do you connect and engage all of your followers, or are you paying someone?
I'm doing everything organically right now. I don't know how
organically.
smart or scalable that is, but I think that's why people connect with me, because I try my best to be of service through the content that I create. And for the most part, I respond. It gets overwhelming sometimes, and there will get to a point where I can no longer do that. But I really care about the individuals who consume my content, so I try to connect with them individually. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if she's on this call. Marlena, I believe her name is Marlena. She reached out to me. She's amazing. She showed me one of her presentations, and I appreciate the engagement there. So thank you. Big shout out to Marlena.
Awesome. And then last question, how long did it take you to build your brand?
Yeah, so honestly, like I said, I didn't even have language for what I was doing until episode 100. But the truth is, don't worry about building your brand necessarily, right? Because a lot of people will say, you got to have these guidelines. You have to have everything perfect in this, and this. My opinion is you just start creating content and improving along the way. In my case, the personal brand sort of emerged as a result of all of this stuff, right? So if you Google Julian Placino, you'll see me on podcasts, you'll see the acting stuff that I do, the social movement, the reality show I was in, and all the content and stuff, right? It just all lives there, and people can research you, learn about you, and connect with you if they like.